The real problem is not whether machines think, but whether men do. B.F. Skinner. You know that sound? Clothes spinning endlessly in cycles, round and round, going nowhere. I'm sitting in this fluorescent-lit laundromat at 11:30 p.m., watching my jeans tumble against the glass, and I just realized something that's been staring me in the face for years. I've been treating myself like a broken washing machine. Every therapy session, every self-help book, every meditation app, every fucking life hack, all of it trying to fix the problem of being human. But what if there's no problem to fix? What if the spinning, the tumbling, the endless cycles? What if that's not malfunction but music? I'm Alexander Gray, and this is Vertigo. Last month I counted, I've spent over $3,000 this year alone on solutions. Therapy, courses, books with titles like Unlock Your Potential and Master Your Mind. Apps that promise to optimize my sleep, my focus, my entire existence. And you know what I have to show for it? More anxiety about whether I'm doing self-improvement correctly. I was walking home from my therapist's office last Tuesday, feeling more broken than when I walked in. When I passed this street musician, this old guy with a violin playing something raw, imperfect, beautiful. He wasn't trying to solve anything. He was just playing, responding to the moment, dancing with whatever notes came. And standing there, listening to his crooked melody, I felt something crack open in my chest. Not breaking, but opening. Because I realized I've been approaching my life like a computer programmer approaches buggy code. Find the error, debug the system, optimize performance. But what if consciousness isn't code to be debugged but music to be played? What if existence isn't a problem but a dance? That's when Skinner's words started making sense to me. The real problem is not whether machines think, but whether men do. I always thought he meant we should think more like machines. But standing there, listening to that crooked violin, maybe he meant the opposite. Maybe the real problem is that we've stopped thinking like humans. Tonight, we're going to explore something dangerous. Something that might unravel everything you think you know about self-improvement, about growth, about the very nature of being alive. We're going to discover why the moment you stop trying to solve your life might finally begin. The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change. Carl Rogers. There's this violence in self-improvement culture that we never talk about. We call it working on ourselves, but listen to that language. Working on, like we're construction projects, like we're problems that need fixing. I remember the exact moment this hit me. I was sitting in my car outside a bookstore, holding yet another book about transforming your life in 30 days, and I caught my reflection in the window, this exhausted face staring back at me, and I thought, how many years have I been at war with this person in the mirror? I've been working on myself for almost a decade now, and somehow I feel more fragmented than when I started. It's like when you were a kid and you'd take apart a radio, trying to understand how it worked. All those tiny pieces scattered across your bedroom floor. And then you couldn't put it back together. That's what we've done to ourselves. We've become so obsessed with understanding, optimizing, improving, that we've dismantled the very thing we were trying to fix. Last week I was filling out this life audit worksheet, rating my relationships, my career, my health, my happiness on scales of 1 to 10. And I realized, when did I become a spreadsheet? When did my existence become data points to be analyzed? The worst part, it never ends. Every solution creates 3 new problems. Every breakthrough reveals 5 new areas that need work. You fix your confidence, then you need to work on your boundaries. You master your boundaries, then you need to optimize your productivity. You optimize your productivity, then you need to work on your emotional intelligence. It's like being trapped in a video game where every level you complete just unlocks harder levels, and you start to wonder, what if the game itself is the trap? Carl Rogers wrote something that haunts me, that quote I started with. The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change. When I first read those words, I thought Rogers was just being clever. But sitting in my car that day, staring at my exhausted reflection, what if he was pointing to something deeper than psychology? What if this curious paradox isn't just about personal growth, but about the nature of existence itself? What if the very act of trying to solve yourself is what's keeping you broken? Because I've started to notice something. In those rare moments when I'm not trying to improve or optimize or fix anything. When I'm just sitting with my morning coffee, watching rain on the window, feeling whatever I'm feeling without trying to change it. Those moments feel more alive, more real, more me than all my years of self-optimization combined. And that terrifies me. Because if that's true, if the solution isn't more work, more effort, more improvement, then what the hell have I been doing with my life? You were born to be a player. You were meant to be here. This moment is yours. Herb Brooks. When did we learn to see ourselves as machines? I think it started somewhere around the Industrial Revolution, when we began measuring human worth by output, efficiency, performance metrics. But it really crystallized when we started talking about our brains like computers, our emotions like software, our personalities like operating systems that need updates. I was at my doctor's office last month, and she's asking me about my sleep hygiene, my stress management protocols, my cognitive behavioral strategies. And I'm sitting there thinking, when did my body become a machine that I'm supposed to operate? We've internalized this so deeply that we don't even notice it anymore. We talk about rebooting after vacation, running on empty, burning out, optimizing our performance, debugging our thoughts. Like we're Tony Stark constantly upgrading the Iron Man suit, adding new features, fixing glitches. But what if we're not machines at all? The other day I was walking through this botanical garden, and I stopped in front of this ancient oak tree. Massive, twisted, scarred by storms and seasons. And I thought, this tree isn't trying to optimize itself. It's not running diagnostics or following a growth plan. It's just responding, reaching toward light, deepening its roots, bending with the wind, growing in whatever direction life pulls it. A garden doesn't have problems. It has seasons, weather, cycles. A river doesn't malfunction. It flows around obstacles, carves new paths, finds its way. But somewhere along the line, we decided we were different. We decided we were broken machines instead of living systems. Wall-E, that little robot, he's more alive than most of us because he stopped following his programming. He started wondering, feeling, collecting things that had no function just because they were beautiful. When did we forget that we're not robots trying to become human, but humans who've been taught to think like robots? I remember standing in my kitchen last Tuesday morning, making the same breakfast I've made for 3 years, part of my optimized morning routine. And suddenly I felt like I was watching myself from outside. This person going through the motions, following the algorithm, but where was the life in it? That's when I thought about Herb Brooks, the hockey coach who said those words at the beginning. You were born to be a player. You were meant to be here. This moment is yours. He wasn't talking to machines. He was talking to players. Living, breathing, unpredictable humans who couldn't be programmed to win, only inspired to play. And I realized, I've been trying to debug a poem. I've been trying to troubleshoot a song. I've been treating my existence like faulty code when maybe it's meant to be jazz. The terror isn't that we might be broken. The terror is that we might be perfectly, beautifully, chaotically alive. And we've been trying to fix what was never broken. But if that's true, if we're not machines, if life isn't a problem to be solved, then what are we supposed to do with all this messiness? The way that can be spoken is not the true way. Lao Tzu. So what happens when you stop trying to solve your life? I found out 3 weeks ago, completely by accident. I was having one of those days where everything feels wrong, like you're wearing a coat that doesn't fit, living in a life that belongs to someone else. I'd been scrolling through my phone for 2 hours, consuming productivity tips, life hacks, articles about finding your purpose. And suddenly I just stopped Not because I found an answer, but because I realized I was drowning in solutions. So I put the phone down, walked outside. No plan, no destination, no podcast to optimize the walk. Just walking. And something strange happened. After about 20 minutes, my mind stopped trying to fix things. It stopped narrating, stopped analyzing, stopped working. I just was. Walking past this creek, listening to water move over rocks. And I realized, rivers don't have anxiety about their direction. They don't wake up at 3 a.m. wondering if they're flowing correctly. They just respond. To gravity, to obstacles, to the shape of the land. There's this scene in Forrest Gump when he's running. He's not running towards something or away from something. He's just running. Because that's what feels right in that moment. And people keep asking him, why are you running? Like there has to be a reason, a goal, a solution he's chasing. But maybe the running is the answer. I started thinking about all the times in my life when things actually worked. When I felt most alive, most myself. And none of them involved solving anything. Falling in love. I wasn't trying to solve loneliness. I was just responding to someone's laugh. Writing that poem in college. I wasn't trying to solve my depression. I was just following words as they appeared. That conversation with my father the week before he died, we weren't trying to solve our complicated relationship. We were just sitting together, being present for what was. But this is where it gets terrifying. Because if life isn't a problem, if it's more like weather or music or flowing water, then all our tools, all our strategies, all our frameworks for improvement, what if they're not just useless? What if they're obstacles? Like trying to improve a river by building dams. Like trying to fix a song by scheduling its notes. That's when Lao Tzu's words started making sense. The way that can be spoken is not the true way. I used to think that was just mystical nonsense. But now I think Lao Tzu was pointing to something revolutionary. What if the moment you try to capture life, define it, solve it, optimize it, you've already missed it? What if life, real life, happens in the spaces between our attempts to understand it? And that's when I understood the real paradox. The harder you chase solutions, the further you get from actually living. The more you try to control the flow, the more turbulent it becomes. The moment you stop trying to fix yourself, something else, something deeper starts to emerge. But this keeps me awake at night. If we're not supposed to solve our problems, if we're supposed to flow around them, dance with them, how do we navigate real pain, real challenges, real suffering? How do we respond without trying to fix? Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. Viktor Frankl. So here's the question that's been eating at me. If life isn't a problem to be solved, if we're supposed to flow, to dance, to respond, what do we do when life actually hurts? Because this isn't just some philosophical thought experiment, is it? People are struggling. People are in pain. People are facing real, devastating challenges. My friend Sarah, she's been battling cancer for 8 months. You think I'm going to tell her, hey, just flow with it? Don't try to solve anything? Your tumor is just part of the dance. That would be monstrous, wouldn't it? But I've been learning something. There's a difference, a crucial difference, between responding and solving. Solving says, this shouldn't exist. I need to eliminate this. I need to fix this so it never happens again. Responding says, this is here. This is real. How do I dance with what is? Viktor Frankl, the man who wrote those words I started with. He wasn't sitting in a comfortable cafe philosophizing about life. He was in a concentration camp, watching friends die, facing the absolute worst that humans can do to each other. And what did he discover? That even there, especially there, he still had a choice. Not a choice to solve his situation, but a choice in how to respond. That space between stimulus and response, that's not empty space. That's where we become human. Sarah, my friend with cancer, she's not trying to solve cancer. She's responding to it. Some days that response is fierce fighting, chemo, surgery, medical warfare. Other days it's sitting with her daughter watching clouds, letting herself feel the fear, the love, the terrible, beautiful fragility of being alive. She's not flowing around cancer. She's flowing with her response to cancer. You see the difference? It's like, actually forget Dead Poet Society for a second. I keep going back to that movie, but maybe that's the wrong reference. Let me think. Jazz musicians, real ones. Not the smooth jazz in elevators, but the ones who bleed through their instruments. They don't solve dissonance, they dance with it. They don't eliminate tension. They let it build, resolve, build, again. Miles Davis once said, "Do not fear mistakes. There are none." Not because mistakes don't exist, but because in jazz, in life, mistakes become part of the music. Last month when my relationship ended, my first instinct was solution mode. What did I do wrong? How can I fix this? What books should I read? What therapist should I see? How do I solve heartbreak? But then I remembered the river, the dance, the flow. So instead I let myself break. I let the grief move through me like weather. I responded to the pain by feeling it, by writing terrible poetry, by crying in grocery stores. Not because I was trying to solve anything, but because that's what the moment called for. And something strange happened. The heartbreak didn't go away, but it transformed. It became part of the song, part of the dance. Wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me slow down because I think I'm missing something important here. Sarah called me yesterday, 3 a.m, couldn't sleep. Cancer patients don't get to sleep through the night very often, apparently. And she said something that stopped me cold. She said, "Alex, I used to think I was fighting cancer. But I realized I'm not fighting cancer. I'm living with cancer. There's a difference." She wasn't giving up. She wasn't surrendering. She was... God, how do I explain this? She was dancing with the most unwelcome partner imaginable. And somehow, in that dance, she was finding not solutions, but responses. Not cures, but ways of being alive even in the middle of dying. And that's when Frankel's words became real to me. That space between stimulus and response. Sarah found it. Even with cancer. Even facing death. She found that space where choice lives. Because here's the final paradox, the one that changes everything. The moment you stop trying to solve your life starts solving itself. Not through your effort, not through your control, but through your response. Through your willingness to dance with whatever music life is playing. Even when the music is a funeral march. Even when your partner is cancer, or heartbreak, or failure, or loss. You still get to choose how you move. I'm back in the laundromat now. 12:47 a.m., the same machine still tumbling, still spinning. But something has shifted. The clothes aren't trying to optimize their cycle. They're not stressed about efficiency. They're just moving, responding to forces larger than themselves. And watching them, I realize I've been asking the wrong questions for years. Instead of how do I fix myself, maybe the question is, how do I respond to this moment? Instead of what's wrong with me, maybe it's what is life asking of me right now? Instead of how do I solve this problem, maybe it's how do I dance with what is? There's this moment in the movie Her at the end, when Theodore finally stops trying to solve his loneliness, stops trying to fix his relationship, stops trying to optimize his life. He just walks into the night, into uncertainty, into the vast, unknowable mystery of being alive. And for the first time in the whole movie, he looks free. Not because his problems are solved, but because he's finally responding instead of resisting. I can't promise you that this approach will make your life easier. It might actually make it harder. Because when you stop numbing yourself with the illusion of control, you feel everything. The joy, the terror, the beauty, the pain, all of it. Raw, unfiltered, real. But I can promise this. It will make your life yours. Not the optimized version, not the fixed version, not the solved version. But the real version. The one that breathes, that breaks, that bleeds, that dances. So tomorrow morning, when you wake up and that familiar voice starts cataloging everything that needs fixing, everything that's wrong, everything that requires optimization, remember the river. Remember the jazz musician. Remember Sarah dancing with cancer. Remember that life isn't a problem to be solved. It's a dance to be danced, a song to be sung, a poem being written one breath, one choice, one response at a time. The washing machines have stopped now. The cycle's complete. But nothing's really finished, is it? Tomorrow there will be new clothes, new cycles, new dances with dirt and detergent. And that's not a problem to be solved. That's just life doing what life does. Spinning, flowing, responding, being. I'm Alexander Gray. This has been Vertigo. And remember, you are not a machine that needs fixing. You are not a problem that needs solving. You are a mystery unfolding, a dance in progress, a song still being sung.